This is Naked at Night with Lance and Rick and JD and Mark and Scott and Canada and Cassidy. And tonight we are starting a monumental new frickin' project where Lance is going to paint a Renaissance style painting of Cassidy across many weeks, many episodes, and you will be here from blank canvas to finished painting. And so if you can come for the politics, you can come for us saying nonsensical crap, you can come for two old Jews arguing, or you can come for the Renaissance style painting. Lance is one of the greatest portrait painters in the what?
Enough.
All right. So Lance, you explain.
All right. So what's happening is this. I'm a little concerned because I should be 7 feet from the model and I'm only 5 feet from the model. So when you speak, you have to move up a little bit. When Cassidy speaks, you'll have to get closer to the mic. Okay, fine.
Don't worry about the painting.
Okay, so anyway, the point is that if you're closer than 5 feet, there's a distortion photographically, and I don't know if it happens with paintings, but it might. What happens is, for those of you that take selfies, you probably notice that your nose gets real big when you're holding your camera out.
You just see your
And the reason that your nose gets real big is because the camera creates a fisheye. And Director JD, I'm sorry, I don't care if people look at my nose. I have to paint.
Yeah, when you're painting, you can.
But I all right. Well, listen, okay. So what happens is this: when you pull back 7 feet, you get the right proportions on the model. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to have to live with it only being 5 feet, and I'm going to paint the model. That's all.
Why? We can always move the mic. Yeah.
What? We can move the mic back?
Yeah, of course.
There's a cord right here
Make it work.
that is going to explode. There's a very delicate cord. So you'll have to move the computer. Oh, there you go.
Perfect.
Do we have
All right.
Mike still?
Yeah.
All right. So
That's just the.
So for the first, I don't know, episode at least, Lance is probably going to be directing Cassidy into a number of different poses, right? To see which one that they
That
can.
microphone is for Cassidy, and this is just for you.
Okay. All right. So I'll just move it like that.
All right. So
Fine.
you guys are going to be trying to settle on a pose, right? Is
Right.
that okay?
So can you hold this, please? So I want to make sure at 6 feet, I think is reasonable. And so hold it up to your face, to your nose. There you go. Okay. So I'm at, I would say 64 inches. How many feet is that?
5 feet 4 inches.
All right. Well, let's just move this out a little bit more. Oops. And
Oh, okay. Yep, got it. You do what you
So
want.
Lance, how come
all right.
Lance, when people make out, they don't notice that their noses are huge because of the fisheye
Because
effect?
they what happens is, and it's kind of sad because a lot of people take these photographs of themselves and they always think, God, I look so awful. And it's because their heads are being squeezed from the sides and their nose are widening.
Interesting.
So don't take selfies without a selfie stick. That's what selfie sticks are for.
Whoa.
Or have somebody else. See, I told you this is valuable information.
Well, it's like when it's cute when you get too close to a dog's face and they're all nose, but it's less cute when you do it with people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you're taking selfies, you have to sit back further. So anyway, so I've got charcoal, I've got a prepared panel, and I'm going to be posing the model.
Okay.
So
should I just talk about? I've got a thing to
let's-
talk
we can
about.
move- let's talk.
Okay. Well, so you just told me because I'm lazy and a piece of shit. Like I read. You read you read more viewer comments than I do, right, Lance?
Yeah, I do. In fact, somebody wanted advice from you about where to go in LA that is cool because they assume you know the cool places in LA to go
Well,
to.
I stay home mostly, or I mean, I either stay home or I go to the gym. Um, Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, just
okay.
Turn your head.
thank you.
My wife Carol
Not
hikes.
that much.
And if you want to go cool in LA, you want to hike a canyon. For instance, our local canyon is Fryman, and every canyon has its celebrities. Like Fryman used to have Clooney. I don't know if he still lives up Fryman. Used to have Trebek, but Trebek passed away. Used to have Steve Martin. Used to have a baby llama that you'd sometimes see. But anyway, find a canyon and you might see celebrities or you might just have a nice nature experience. Um, Lance knows amusement parks, and Lance will steer you away from Disneyland because
Well, I can
Disneyland is
talk.
freaking expensive.
I can talk.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you want to go to Knott's Berry Farm. You want to go to Knott's Berry Farm. That's a hidden gem in LA that nobody recognizes from out of town. They've never even heard of it, but it's in many ways better than Disneyland. It's a lot cheaper, but never go there on a weekend or a holiday because it's too crowded. Now, the reason I'm measuring Cassidy is because I want to know how much I can fit on this canvas because it's going to be a life-size painting. And if I put this, okay, so the canvas is 20
his microphone's
inches.
speaking. So.
Okay, so the canvas is 20 inches long, and I want to know if I can put her whole body in, and I cannot. Okay, because I need to leave a few inches at the top.
So you're going to paint her 1-to-1. You're going to paint her exactly life size.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
more LA stuff. So like if you come to LA, you're probably going to want to get sushi. And it used to be that you could get all you could eat sushi for a reasonable price. You could eat till you almost vomit and for $30. But the new price point for all you can eat sushi is probably 40, maybe 45. So you're just going to have to resign yourself to slightly more expensive sushi. JD, where else?
Oh yeah, well you have Hollywood Boulevard, the Walk of Fame.
Okay, the Hollywood Boulevard. Like I worked on Hollywood Boulevard for 12 years, and I feel sorry for tourists who come there because it is not a clean place. You can pose with costume superheroes, but many of the costume superheroes have drug problems. It's the same in Times Square in New York. That it's fun to pose with heroes for tips, but they may be a little whacked out.
You got Universal Studios.
You got Universal Studios and City Walk. They're expensive. It's not cheap. Lance, how would you rank Universal versus Knott's and Disney?
All right, so here's the situation. Disneyland is amazing, but it's wildly expensive, and you have to get reservations. So if you just go down there to buy a ticket, I don't know if they'll even let you in. They say that they have the right to refuse letting you in if it's crowded. So it's best to plan your trip to Disneyland online, and it's about $200 for a day. Don't buy fast passes and things like that, or they call them lightning passes, to get on the ride quicker, because then you're really running into a lot of money. Knott's Berry Farm is about $100 to get in, and it's $150 for a whole year. And it has the best roller coasters, and I like the dark rides too. So a dark ride is a ride with animatronic figures, and it tells a story, and it's dark.
I mean,
So
it's you
not
move through the dark or
yeah,
what?
everybody thinks that Disneyland has the best dark rides, but actually, I like the ones at Knott's. Okay, a dark ride is a ride like the pirate ride. Most people know the pirate ride, the haunted house, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what they have. A lot of those at Disneyland, but they have two really good ones at Knott's too. It's half the price. The food's about the same as far as quality. Universal, on the other hand, is in the middle in terms of price, and depending on your taste, you may prefer Universal because they've got amazing dark rides, and they have a couple fast rides.
What about the fake inertia rides like Fast and Furious, where it
Um,
feels like a bunch of like you're moving in a vehicle when you're really
that's considered not really good. I mean, I enjoy it. That's at Universal, but they do have a Fast and Furious ride, which is I really enjoyed it. I can't tell people what's really happening. I'll just say you will think you're driving really, really fast through a city. But the point is that they also have the Jurassic Park ride where you get attacked by real dinosaurs, and the Harry Potter ride where you get to fly on a broomstick and be attacked by witches and ghosts, which is fine. So
which
is fine.
all right. So let's get back to Hollywood Boulevard first. If you're going to go to Hollywood Boulevard, you might as you what a great thing on Hollywood Boulevard is Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Yes.
And I mean that makes your trip to Hollywood Boulevard worth it. And you can sign up to get free tickets through 1iota, the number 1iota.com. And it's a great experience. And you know, Jimmy off camera is as entertaining as he is on camera. And don't buy the conservative BS that Jimmy's not funny. Jimmy remains funny. He's always been funny. Yeah, he's over the past few years, he's gotten pretty annoyed with Trump. But look beyond that. Not everything has to revolve around Trump, even if you're a conservative. It's a good show, and you'll be entertained.
Rick, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with Cleto? First tell us about what happened with Cleto, the sax player, the band.
Cleto's Jimmy's. I mean, with my limited experience, well, not that limited, but like Jimmy's best friend, Cleto Escobedo, the Jimmy's band leader and his best friend for 47 years since they were kids together in Las Vegas. He passed away tragically at age 59. And it's freaking sad. Cleto was a kind man, a good man, a talented man. And, sometimes we would sell a bit to on the show where we needed music to go along with the bit, and you could go to Cleto and his band and you could you explain what you needed, and they would compose the music for you. And I'm kind of squirrely, and in life when I come up to people, they might look at me askance because I'm so freaking squirrely. Cleto never did that. Cleto always treated me with kindness. He was just a great, great guy. And my condolences to everyone who knew him and loved him.
I knew him too. Can I share a couple of stories?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I met Cleto. I was a piano bar player at this very famous bar in Studio City. What is the name of that? Man, I can't remember, on Colfax. Anyway, Cleto was there, and the whole band was there. This was back in like between 2000. I want to say between 2001 and 2005.
The band was formed in 2002.
Yeah, they were already on Kimmel. Yeah, and Cleto was always at the bar there with his bandmates, and I just didn't I didn't know that Cleto at that time was the band leader for Kimmel. I just knew him as a dude that would go to the bar and hang out. And he'd always come up and say hello to me, and he sometimes request some songs. And one highlight of mine is one of the musicians. One time I was playing, I'll never forget, "My Life" by Billy Joel, and he came up to me and he was just recording me as I was playing it, and he was really fascinated with that. And he came up, he goes, "Man, I've never heard it play that way." He said, "Good job." So I can attest to the fact as well, from my personal experience, that Cleto was incredible. He never once came up to me and said, "Oh, I'm a sax player, and he's also a great singer." Like, great. I didn't know. I found this out later when I saw him on TV. I go, "Well, holy shit, that's the guy from the bar." He never came up to me and said, "Oh, I'm a sax player, or you let me sit in," or whatever. Like, he was great. Always compliment me. And so, Cleto was a real deal. Yeah. So anyway, that's my personal experience with Cleto.
Okay. So to change the subject. So Lance, who reads the viewer comments more responsibly than I do, says that some of you tune in because I supposedly I claim to have the highest IQ in America and one of the highest IQs in the world. So let me explain how that came about. Basically through my penis. So, in the era when Lance and I grew up, this was before nerds were billionaires who could, get, girlfriends because they were worth, or Elon Musk is soon going to be worth $1 trillion. And he can have a stable of 20 girlfriends. No, this was back in the 70s when nobody knew that nerds were going to grow up to be billionaires. Nerds were just the people that you came up to them and you knocked all the books out of their hand, you shoved them into a locker, you made fun of them in PE because we sucked at fucking gym class. Nerds had it bad. And I had it especially bad because I was horny at too young an age. So because I was smart, I started reading early, and then I read all the time. I was bad on the playground, so I'd stay in at recess when they'd let me, and I'd read, and I'd end up reading adult books, some of which were sexy and got me all horned up prematurely.
Wait, what do you mean by adult books? Like for older folks?
Yeah, and one time, one of my friends found a book of porn on the school playground, and we passed it around. And this was 4th grade, so you had a bunch of kids reading. It was called The Pearl, and it was Victorian literary pornography from 100 years earlier, and it made a bunch of the nerdy kids in class horny prematurely. You shouldn't be horny at age 9, but that's what happened to us. Because
say that we have a lady present.
I know she's going to have to deal or raise her hand and say this is too much. But the deal is that, if you're good at sports, I think you don't get horny till later because you're distracted by Little League or Pop Warner football.
Just one more interruption.
Okay.
I just want to be on the record that I think you're disgusting.
Okay, I'm pretty disgusting, but if you're a regular kid who's into sports, you maybe don't run into horniness until you're 12. But if you're nerdy, at least like me and some of my friends, we ran into adult material at an earlier age. So I was jerking off every night by age 9.5. And
I think
Um,
that's more common for everyone than we talk about in society.
so, but I was like, my,
Can I,
mem-
can I interrupt myself?
Yeah.
Lance, what are you doing? I mean, let the audience know because you.
All right. Okay. So what's happening is I'm trying to get the model into a pose that I feel great about. And so I keep asking her to do different things and pose. And while I'm doing that, Rick is saying the most disgusting things that should not be said in public by anyone. And it was for many centuries, we did not share these things, and it was good. I liked it better that way. And furthermore, our model has never heard such vulgarity. We got her right out of a convent. And now she comes here and she's going to be wrecked. She won't be the same girl. No one will marry her after she's heard what Rick has to say. She'll be damaged goods.
all right, here
She'll be sullied.
here might be the most disgusting thing I have to say.
Oh no. And
My-
wait a minute. When he says that, he means it. So if spoiler, you can turn it off now. This is a warning.
So my mattress ended up looking like the Shroud of Turin
Oh.
because I was too late. I hadn't learned the sock method yet.
Oh.
And my mom got very upset with me. I destroyed a mattress.
Oh.
But I desperately wanted a girlfriend from a very early age. And
Thank God you didn't get a girlfriend.
well, what happened
She'd be a cripple by now.
in ninth grade, I found out that I had the highest IQ in my class, 151. And for a while, this was good enough. I was like, great, that somebody will see my value as a human being and be my girlfriend. And this turned out to not be so because I was nerdy and squirrely. I had creepy little glasses that I replaced with slightly less creepy, like 70s style aviator glasses. And I tried contacts that only lasted a week because contact lenses used to be made out of glass. And in Colorado, where the air was dry and it was windy, and you looked worse with contact lenses than you did with glasses because your eyes were always hurting. Well, there was one kid in our school we called Squinto because he was always going like this with his So anyway, I had to wear glasses, and I wasn't getting a girlfriend. And after a while, I was like, being smart is not going to get me laid. And so I started lifting weights, and I started acting like John Travolta on Welcome Back High. I started talking like Barbarino. I flipped the collar on my jean jacket, but everybody knew that I was a nerd because Boulder was a small town, and they knew that anything I did was to no avail because people knew me. And then I did the math on my IQ and realized that an IQ of 151 is only a 1 in 1,000 IQ. And not only did I want to get a girlfriend, but I also wanted to change the world. I wanted to be the next Einstein. And a 1 in 1,000 IQ, there are currently 8 billion people on Earth, which means there are 8 million people with 1 in 1,000 IQs. And there aren't 8 million Einsteins. A 1 in 1,000 IQ just isn't good enough. And I'm like, well, that's I'm going to have to, I don't know, I'm going to have to give up on the being Einstein. And by this time I was in college. And I'm like, the IQ is just not going to do it. So I became a meat boy. I lifted weights with more intensity. I got my bench press up to 285. I did a little bit. I did. But no, people would laugh at the small amounts of steroids I do, because the gyms I went to, the people I knew, they were doing insane amounts of steroids. And I was doing little baby amounts, mostly so I could stay I ended up getting a girlfriend at some point, but then she dumped me for a steroid addicted steroid dealer. And he had a whole gang of steroid guys, and I started doing a little steroids myself, just so I could be as aggressive as they were, because it was one group of bouncers at this giant bar versus another group of bouncers, and I just wanted to be as pissy as they were. But anyway, I became a meat boy. Became a bouncer and a stripper, and I was going to make my way in the world as that's what somebody who doesn't get by on their brain but gets by on being beefy, a beefy boy. And in that capacity, I started getting girlfriends from time to time, and then in my dorm, somebody, I guess I was probably being braggy about my IQ, and probably was an insufferable piece of shit. But somebody in my dorm said, "Hey, you should look in this magazine where they've got a thing called the world's hardest IQ test." So I took the test, and I tied for the second highest score. And I'm like, hey, maybe I don't have to be a meat boy. Maybe my dream of being a brain boy can really come to fruition. And so I started tracking down and taking all the high-end IQ tests I could find, the tests written by lunatics for other lunatics. See, regular IQ tests are meant to find out who needs extra educational resources. Almost everybody gets IQ tested at some point if they go to public school or a Catholic school or a decent private school. And if you score 70, that tells the people at your school that you're going to need extra help.
Real quick, were these verbal IQ tests or nonverbal?
They test both. They're the ones where you fill in the dots.
Yeah, okay.
They're like, in kindergarten, if it's a kindergarten level test, the teacher might say, what is missing from this picture? And you look at the picture, and unless you're an idiot, you see that the horse only has 3 legs. And so, so anyway, you take tests like this, and it's partly verbal and it's partly just general understanding of the world around you. And, so if you score low, you're supposed to get extra help. And if you score high, you're supposed to, get some extra attention so you're not totally bored. But nobody needs to know whether you're, for this purpose, nobody needs to know whether your IQ is below 60 or above 140. But lunatics started saying, let's see how high we can go. Let's see if we can write an IQ test that goes to 180 or 190. And, these were not the professional testing companies. These were talented amateurs who wanted to just turn it into a kind of a weird sport. Yeah. So I took like 40 of these high-end IQ tests. And so I would stand at the door when I wasn't checking IDs in a bar as a bouncer. I'd maybe be messing with IQ tests. I was also a nude art model, which I thought was another way to maybe get a girlfriend, because when I'm naked, I look pretty good from my knees to my neck.
Now, was this in Colorado? Or was that here?
This was in Colorado. No, and later, but mostly this started in Colorado, where my lower legs, from the knees down, my legs are a little fucked up, but from here to here, I'm good. And I'm like, well, maybe if I'm getting naked for art classes, somebody will pick me up. And that's just not the way it works if you're a guy. you still have to be able to talk to women, which I'm bad at. Lance noticed that just being like 2 feet from Cassidy kind of petrifies me even now. And so as a stripper, I was still bad at talking to women. And so I didn't go home with that many women. And I never went home with anybody from an art class. But in art class, you take these weird poses for 3 hours. And if you pick the wrong pose, it's painful. So I needed something to keep me distracted from the pain of a bad pose. And so I do IQ test problems in my head. So anyway, I took like 40 of these high-end IQ tests. And on about 30 of those tests, I got the highest score ever scored on these frickin' tests. I was like the Tiger Woods of IQ tests. And there you go. That's the story of my IQ.
Did you, Rick, did you ever take the Wexler?
Yeah, I took, So, okay. So when I was 6 years old, well, when I was in kindergarten, the first time our class was given an IQ test, the teacher at the parent-teacher conference told my parents that I was a genius, and they didn't know what to do with that. So they pretty much said, all right, just, I don't know, let's just have him keep going to school. And then in first grade, they tested me again to see if I should get bumped up a grade, and my IQ was high enough to bump me up. But then they watched me on the playground and saw that I sucked ass at playground, that I wasn't making friends. And they realized if they bumped me a grade, I'd be even more screwed because, I had no friend skills. And I would just get, harassed by all the other kids.
This is a serious question. Did you ever have thoughts about men, boys, or did you ever think that way? I'm just curious. I mean, this is a valid question.
All right. So the deal is, I've been jerking off since age 9.5. And I got the internet in 1995, and it was really slow. It was dial-up back then. And so by then, I'd been jerking off for more than 25 years. And by 2005 or so, the internet was still, I pretty much used up all the porn on the internet. So I have to admit that out of the 10,000, 11,000 times I jacked off until that point, one time I was just out of stuff to jerk off to, and I jerked off to Howie Long. So one time in 11,000, all right, I jerked off to a dude. So there you go.
I bet you more guys do it than they tell people.
Well, I mean, everybody is destroyed now by porn. I'm 65, and in the days in caveman days, I would have been dead for 30 years by now. I've jerked off like 17,000 times, and the stuff that's an exceptional number, but a lot of guys have jerked off thousands and thousands of times, well more than they would have survived, on the savannah in 10,000, 20, 50,000 years ago. And people, need increasingly perverse porn. Like when the first thing I jerked off to was naked lady, it wasn't even naked lady, it was topless lady playing cards from the 1950s. Some kid brought them to school. And it was just boobs. And then it was Playboy centerfolds. And back then, Playboy didn't even show pubes. Everybody had pubes back then in 1972. Nobody got rid of pubes. It's just that everybody in Playboy was posed, so you never saw a pube. It was like, it wasn't until like 73. I don't know, it might have been 70. Anyway, so things were tame. Did Lance run away because I'm filthy? No, he ran.
Does Mark want to come into this question? Yeah, he's
Yeah, it's about that time and everything like that. And I did have a question for you since you're in that realm, and I think Scott's with me as well and everything like that. But we were talking about the social media of the day and everything along those lines. So I was just wondering if Cassidy, and I know you had an account because I know I had one, and I'm sure Lance had one as well. So did you ever hear of some websites called Friendster and MySpace, Cassidy? And if so, do any people in your realm and your age range even identify with those old websites and everything like that? Because he was talking about social.
I had a MySpace for a long time.
I did not. Twitter has been my only social medium. Um, Instagram a little lately, but really my family prohibited me for the first 10 years of Instagram from posting on Instagram because, well, you've heard this whole episode here. They knew it was going to be embarrassing and they did not want to be embarrassed. And then Twitter screwed me because they sold to Elon Musk, who turned it from a fun place where funny people exchange jokes to a place, to like a swamp of anger and hate. And I'm still there because that's where I built my fucking cabin. But it's a dark place.
Hey Lance, did you have a Friendster or MySpace? And I know that some of your models, not Cassidy, but some of the other models have been African American models. So did they have a Black Planet or a Magenta and everything like that that you're aware of, or maybe even some of your past girlfriends?
Okay, I'm not sure I understood the question, but I believe I was on MySpace for a week or something, and it was incomprehensible to me. I barely had a computer, and then in 2006, all the artists had to get on Facebook because you could see our work that way. So that's where most of the good visual artists are now. It's true that we all have to use Instagram, but almost all of us got started on Facebook and stayed there. And I only put my nudes on Instagram, but the truth is that Instagram and Facebook will sometimes censor your nudes, so that's a problem.
Will they blur them or will they just kick them off?
Yeah, no one can see it. You don't know why. So we have Canadian Corner now.
Yeah.
Just don't accidentally email or mail those to Rick when he's around 22,000 or number 22,000.
That's I won't hit 22,000 until I'm like 75. Lord willing.
Well, I mean, you might be saying that. What am I supposed to be commenting on here?
Whatever you feel like it, but I was asking whether you had social media, and I also knew that there was
I have Blue Sky and Twitter, not very many. I have Facebook. I have a little bit more followers there, and then Insta I don't have. LinkedIn I newly have, but they're more just posting boards of publications that I've done that day.
Well, yeah, tell people, because you are a publicationing fool. You have published probably 10 million words, thousands of interviews. You've interviewed some of the biggest muckety mucks and us.
Astute and
and really good interviews. Where can people find those?
You can find the archive at www.in-site-publishing, SIGHT publishing.com. There's an archive there on a tab. If you look really close, you can see it under Jacobson Bank, and you can find several million words of archived words there. The reasons for using the word bank rather than archive. Bank is a shorter word than archive.
Okay, but wait, you just got back from a G7 summit that you were covering, and you have something to say about these leaders, particularly Marco Rubio.
Yeah, we get this impression from the news that they are imposing and big. And in fact, I mean, they don't have a Napoleon complex. They have you get a Napoleon observation. They're actually a lot shorter than you'd think. So they have to do their run where they all line up.
You're saying that all these leaders, particularly Marco Rubio, are teeny little people.
a foreign minister, Anita Anand is shorter. Marco Rubio is shorter. But also, another fun fact is their life as foreign ministers is highly controlled when they're at these things, and so they meet each other for about 10 minutes, maybe 15. It's very tight. So bilateral relation talks have to be very well debriefed so they can be efficient and quick. At this particular G7 summit, the original G7 summit was in Kananaskis. This time it was in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. For them, they also brought Minister Sabiha from Ukraine to deal with sort of unified sanctions. They're getting their act together a little bit more.
So was that what the conference was about, to see
That was
what?
part of it. It was more maritime, Arctic security, etc., and sort of coming up with a unified plan so they can have all their disparate needs and wants and policies as countries, but in terms of those specific orientations around foreign affairs relevant to them, they try to come to agreements on particular things so they can come on a unified front, because it's stronger together rather than not. Because bear in mind, I mean, even the biggest countries like India and China, they're not even 20% of the population each. So
But you're saying, well, the most important thing was that they are freaking teeny people.
yeah, I was just really surprised. I was really underwhelmed by the height. And they wield a lot of influence, right? It's a lot of the soft power stuff. I think it's becomes financial. But a big call that Canada made. I got both speeches in full. I have to write those up. I wrote one article in the G7 for International Policy Digest. It's an American publication about the G7 and primarily about the sanctions that the Canadians and others have put on Russia.
Can we hear you,
Yeah,
Scott?
it's going through a different thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it was music. Are we doing music?
Yeah.
We go use the music, but I did have just
We
one
got a
quick.
new instrument.
Oh, Mark has a question.
I had a quick question for Lance, just back to the social media, because there was one that I do remember that a lot of artists used to use, and I was wondering if you ever used, and it would fit me in with Rick, but there was one called Defiant Art, or Defiant Art,
Deviant art.
Deviant Art, right? Thank you.
Yeah, that was a big deal for animators and people that did very kind of illustration, animation, pop culture stuff. So if you did, and the reason they called it deviant art is a lot of young people that were sort of doing sort of rebellious art. Nothing really, it was more for commercial type. In my field, there's a difference between someone that will spend a year on one painting and somebody that will do a kind of a drawing with ink, maybe on a computer, that takes an hour. So that deviant art is more for the fast art.
Gotcha. Appreciate it.
All right, so now
Gotcha.
music.
Now music.
Well, I'm gonna do. I brought my keyboard.
You got the keyboard this time.
Yeah, I'm a pianist. Well, I consider myself a piano player, not a pianist. But Scott Jacobson has been interviewing me now for a couple of years on Tejano music. I'm one of the pioneers. I'm one of the founders of Tejano music. And I'm going to play genuine, bona fide Tejano music right now.
Well, looking forward to it.
Ah, cumbia! Aquí está mi corazón. Y está solitario. Here is my heart. And the peace loneliness. Dale, 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 gas. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Ah. Ha! aquí tengo 1000 pesitos. Y desean tus labios. And you are 1000 kisses. And desire your lips. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Échale, compadre. Yeah, Tejano, baby. Hope you enjoyed that song. I wrote that. Corazón Solitario. Stick around for our next episode. We got
Before we get to the commercials, I got a quick question for you, and then I'm gonna leave you alone. But did you ever have a Magenta account? Because I know Magenta was the one for Latin Americans and everything like that. Because I had, and I'll admit it, I actually had a date from it, a Black Singles account, and the lady came from California, so I had a date from somebody from Black Singles ages ago. You know, I'm 60, so this was ages ago.
Whoa, I'm 62, Mark. We're the same age. No, I didn't have not a Magenta account. I was on MySpace though. But I have a question for you, Mark. You're
Yes.
like African American, right?
Yes.
You have green eyes. You have
Yes.
and how do white women hit on you all the time? I'm curious.
I do get hit on by some white women. I get hit on by sisters as well. So yeah, people are sometimes appealed to by the eyes and definitely the voice. Because I've had some people that have heard the voice and been like, "I got to talk to that man."
How tall are you, Mark? By the way.
6 even, about 6 even.
Oh my gosh, he's got everything. He's got all the tools, man. Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
No
All
problem.
right,
So, I thought we'd talk about Dunning-Kruger, Lance, and other ways in which people misunderstand how smart or stupid they might be. So, after 10 years of arguing about Trump as a nation, I think most people are aware of what Dunning-Kruger is because we accuse each other of it all the time.
Hang on. Rick, when you try to explain to people what a topic is,
Yeah.
tell people simply what the Dunning-Kruger effect is.
All right. Dunning-Kruger, basically, especially when you're calling somebody else stupid, is you're so stupid you don't know you're stupid.
No. Okay. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Okay.
Wait, may I interrupt?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, what it is dumb people think they're smarter than they are, and smart people think they're dumber than they are. So, the way I like to explain it is this. If you meet someone that's really dumb, don't feel sorry for them because they don't feel dumb. They think they're smarter than they are, and they're fine with it. And if you meet a really smart person, don't assume they're egotistical because they're probably full of self-doubt. They're probably constantly saying, "Oh, that was a stupid thing to say." So it's evolution's way of allowing people to cope with lack of gift or having too much gift.
But there's one more thing.
Aha!
People in the middle,
All right.
they have pretty reasonable beliefs sometimes about. Yeah, most people are like, yeah, I'm not the smartest or the dullest, and but there are other ways we've come to notice that people are misunderstanding their smartness. There's a blogger named King Daddy who wrote about smart stupids, and he was mostly talking about tech billionaires, people who are really smart or lucky in one area of their lives, and who maybe have used that smartness or luckiness to make a few $1 billion and they think they're smart in every area of their life, right? And if you don't like Elon Musk, you might call him a smart stupid because, he's obviously smart enough to become the richest guy in the world, but he thinks he knows about all this other stuff like government and, women. He's got like a gazillion. He runs through a bunch of girlfriends. He's father to like what, 14 kids? Elon Musk. Um, and I don't know. I think he wants to do that. I think he thinks we're not making enough babies. But is that a really smart belief, or is that a smart, stupid belief? The belief is somebody who, I think Musk goes with his first thought about a lot of stuff and then just sticks with it, figuring what he came up with is just naturally going to be brilliant. Lance?
Well, I've lived my whole life with this issue, wondering about it, and I actually have something interesting to say today. I will give credit to somebody else. I heard a lecture on another podcast, somebody else's podcast, about what Michel Foucault, French philosopher, who was a communist and homosexual in the 1960s, who was very influential in making American intellectuals become communist. But he was very influential and highly respected. And he actually wrote an essay on why women prefer dumb men. Yes, it's true. Women prefer dumb men. And I thought it was very enlightening because I've always wondered what it is. And there are a lot of rules about this. The first is dumb men don't hesitate. They just assume they're great and they walk up to the woman and they're just full of confidence. Whereas the intellectual man is pondering the whole situation. He's trying to figure out what could go wrong, whether he's worthy of her or she's worthy of him. And in the end, he's paralyzed. The dumb guy, no hesitation. But it goes beyond that. That's the initial meeting. In the relationship, the dumb guy is very easy to do because for obvious reasons. And that's okay for a lot of women. The other thing is this. The dumb guy is not in competition with the woman. So the dumb guy will go ahead and make a fool of himself. So you ask yourself, why is it? Why is it that she, a worthy woman, is with the dumb guy that is childlike and makes a fool of himself every time they go out? Because it puts her at ease. Because not only does she not have to compete or measure up, not only is everything she says smarter than everything he says, but if she makes a fool of herself, it's okay. That's what we're doing. We're making fools of ourselves. And because of his lack of inhibition and his propensity to try new things and make an ass of himself, the woman feels free. And this is very important to women because being the in some ways the weaker sex, they are frightened a lot of the time. They're inhibited a lot of the time. And when they're with a big stupid bastard, they feel like, well, I can behave any way I want. And one other thing, this is George Patton's theory. George Patton said, the dumber you are, the braver you are. And women like the feeling that they're with a guy that might just do something dangerous because He's too stupid to realize or think through the consequences of his actions. And so that makes her feel more safe, because the intellectual guy is going to sit there and think, well, are we dressed warmly enough? Do I have a, do I have a proper weapon? I mean, if we do this, what will happen? And by that time, the woman's already kidnapped and murdered. So the point is, the dumb guy gives her a feeling of freedom. She can do whatever the hell she wants. Nobody cares. He doesn't care. And gives her a feeling of safety. And so it's a comfortable feeling that she doesn't normally have when she's with a guy that's smarter than her, who could be judging her, who could be maybe a disappointment to her in some way.
Well, that's that. So
wait a minute.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean,
You know damn well I'm right.
Do you get the let's frame it a little bit.
No, we don't have to frame it. I don't
like
frame
that.
it. She knows what to say.
no, I mean, I'm a sapiosexual. I feel like I'm like into intelligence more than anything else. So I feel like that's not true for me, but like I could see how it could be true for I don't know, like
So say
it's when you're like into someone like for their like intelligence and like their mind and talents and like spirit and
Yeah, but that's different.
giftedness.
That's
Yeah.
different though, isn't it?
No, because
So spirit's not the same as intelligence.
No, I said that's intelligence in that too.
so
Like,
how
it's
does
like,
somebody
but I feel like a lot of women like really intelligent.
Hang on. Let me ask you a question. Don't talk. So here's my question.
Yeah.
If intelligent men are that attractive to women, why is it that they get the fewest girls? Because they do. If you go to Caltech and you go in there to the nerds at Caltech, some of these guys have never been on a date.
I feel like there's nuance to everything. Like I feel like there is like okay, I feel like there's these types of podcasts with these information that people take as fact, and it can't be fact because it's the human psychology and each person is so vastly different that there are like schools of thought, but we can't categorize like all women have this.
No,
thing,
but
you
wait a
know?
minute. Wait, I can categorize this. I'll tell you exactly how I know this. Okay? I used to tell people that if women cared about morality in a man, his character, then my rabbi would be chased by more women than Mick Jagger. But we know that's not true. We know that women will go for the worst rock star on earth over the most saintly man in the clergy.
But you know why that is? It's beyond it's not about I don't think it's about the dumb thing.
No,
It's
this
like-
is morality. We're just talking about morality.
Okay, but you want to know because I read something, it was a Carl Jung study that said that what the bad boy archetype or whatever, the rebel activates in women is actually their like repressed unconscious. So it gives them like similar to what you were saying, that bad boy archetype where it's maybe like the daredevil or whatever, or the they call it the rake, the one who's not the Machiavellian traded man, the one who's not afraid to, in this article I read, break the gates of hell. Why they attract a lot more women rather than like a good standing moral man is because they give the repressed feminine a sense of freedom. So she feels like she can like rather than play this role, there's like her shadow that's repressed and oppressed that actually gets this. It's almost like the like hidden fantasies and desires to be met in a different way. It's like this unconscious danger thing that's switched in women. That's why they attract a lot of women.
so
Okay,
but
wait,
hold
wait,
on. But the danger guy has to want you to be an accomplice. He can't be a repressor.
Well, I think that's the thing that women get in trouble with, and like why they end up like unhappy is because it's like it's the unconscious that's attracted to that. So it's like it's something that's not like integrated within them fully. It's something that's why like a lot of women they go after these guys and then they're like, oh my God, I was with a narcissist, or I was in this abusive, crazy relationship and it was toxic, or they went out and cheated on me and did all these things. It's because it's like it was their unconscious that was initially attracted to them in the first place. And so they had to go through the experience of like going with those and seeing how it plays out. And
All right. So
Oh, but
let me-
hold on,
wait,
a couple
no,
things.
no,
A couple things.
it's
One
my
thing is
theory.
Mick Jagger is a smart guy. He went to the London School
Okay.
of Economics.
Yeah, but they'll go for like the dumbest rock star on earth over a rabbi. So wait, so let's turn it into intelligence.
okay.
If you look back into high school or into college, the intelligent guys were not doing that well. It was average or dumb guys that were getting more girls. Think about it.
Well, okay, but what
The
are we
the really
measuring-
intelligent guys that were with their thick glasses and their funny
Yeah.
awkward movements. Those guys were getting girls even though they were 1 million IQ.
I mean, but I feel like in college those guys start getting more girls.
Okay,
You know, they
what
think
about
that-
high school?
Well, high school is so like it's a different if you go back to high school, I feel like first of all, I feel like you can't really measure there's like the intelligence spectrum. I feel like it's measured on certain things where there can be intelligence in different ways. Like no human, like some people are creatively
Oh,
intelligent.
please don't give me the musical thing. That's
Some
different.
people are creatively intelligent. Some people are just like really mathematic and book smart, and it's just like people are different.
Okay,
So wait, I have 3 reasons why jocks do better in high school. Well, no, hold on. Let me make. You've been talking. So one, they're in junior high. They're often physically more mature. 2, they're part of a team, so they learn social interaction. Where me staying in at recess reading, I don't learn any social skills. And 3, they can vouch for each other. When I was in a frat, sorority girls were less wary of me because I was vouched for by the system. If I were a complete weirdo, then I couldn't have been in a frat. And so like I got luckier than I deserved to be. It was weird to me because I was vouched for by the system, and being on a sports team is a kind of vouching that you're able to have these other jock friends and people in junior high, both sexes, are stupid and inexperienced, and they're looking for cues as to what might be a safe guy. Being on a team indicates that that you're not completely weird.
Okay, I have a real life. Okay, so I've lived as a woman. This is a woman's side of things, but as a woman on a different angle, I went through the phase where I was like a chubby child in elementary school, nerdy, glasses, super socially awkward. And then in middle school, joined a bunch of sports teams and went through this phase and then became like super hot and like popular. And so I went through that phase, and it definitely had to do with like more sports because I was very shy and nerdy at one point and socially awkward. And then like from the jump from middle school to high school, by high school, I became popular. And it is because I do remember being on different ends of the spectrum. And I do think sports did have a lot.
Yeah, if I had a time machine, I would go tell myself, suck it up. Yeah, you might be the worst player on the team, but you need to be part of a team.
Yeah, I do think it helps with some skills. But
I have a question for you. Can you name a time when you were like interacting with some dude and you realized that the dude, what made you realize that he was smart and how that was hot?
yes, I feel like okay, well, me personally, I mean, if you look at the people, like if you look at all the people that I've dated or am interested in, none of them are like your traditional, like they're not like your like hot LA pretty boys or anything. I'm more into unique snowflakes who are intelligent in different areas. Like I really like people who are professionals in their craft, and I really like artists and creatives, and I like but and I don't know, people who are really deep into studies of certain areas. So I feel like um I feel like I can tell when people are smart just like by the conversation we have. And
Like you're going to music school.
yeah,
So like if you're working on a piece with some guy and they're showing some mastery of
yeah, I'll give you an example. My current piano teacher, um, I have a new crush on him. and he, and I'm like, okay, this is a typical crush. And it wasn't because he's like the most attractive person on planet Earth at all, but it's all because I witnessed. I was like, whoa, this guy is a freak genius. He can write sheet music, he can teach how to read music theory and translate it to the piano. And the way that he teaches it is so ingenious, like the way that he can embody his like teaching skills and how to translate this beautiful ancient language over to students is like masterful. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm attracted to him. But that I'm definitely like, I'm known in my friend group for being the one with the weird interest and interesting people.
Well, I would say this, that though falls into a predictable pattern. Let me explain.
It does.
If a woman rides horses and she meets a guy that's a great horse rider, she'll be attracted to him. If she, I don't know, surfs and she meets a guy that's a great surfer, she'll be attracted to him.
Yeah.
So that's a different issue, and that's.
But it's not just music. Like I feel like it's intelligence. Like it's an
If
attraction
you
to
met if you met someone that was very intelligent but was not a piano teacher, you would be less attracted.
Lance, have you ever had a woman throw
Okay.
herself at you because of your paintings?
No, but the average woman comes in here and just looks around and says, well, I can't eat these. I can't drive them. I mean, you can't raise a baby with them. What are they? What's the point? I was recently.
You've never had like a woman who's a fine artist herself.
By a woman, by the way, what's interesting is we're in an era of history where women are intensely competitive. And so a lot of women that are fine artists actually become belligerent. They actually write me off because they feel that that's the thing that makes them special. And if I do it, I'll be taking some of the limelight away from them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So actual female art, you would think
They'd be
that
more
a female artist would be interested in being with a male artist, but I haven't found it to be true. Now, I will say that with musicians, it's different.
Yeah.
Because music is a collaborative process. So when a woman, say, sings and she meets a good guitarist or a good pianist, she says, great. Not only are we going to get together, but we're going to make beautiful music together. And also, musicians are very good at using other people in a good sense.
Yeah.
But musicians, I find, are always thinking, what can I get from this person? Oh, they're good with keyboards. They're good with maracas.
Is it true?
They're good dancers. They're good producers. So the musician is always looking for a partner, and it's mutual. You know, like it may be odd, but say a girl has a great voice. She meets a guy that plays the bongos well. Well, who knows where that can lead? Just the bongos, bongo drums. So music is more collaborative. Anyway, I've answered your
So I have
question.
a story, not from my experience, but from I had a boss who was on a TV show.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, I'm sorry. Let's let JD answer my point after you're done with yours.
Okay, so gay guy, big, beautiful gay guy. But he came into work one day and he was super proud because he was designing and building his own house and with just impeccable. Like, you know, LA is a town full of ugly ass houses because people have too much money and the weather is too nice. You don't have to design for the weather. And so people will put up just all sorts of crap. But our boss was putting up a house of elegance. And he brought home like an architecture student. And they walk into his house, and the guy looks up and around him and says, "Oh my God, your rotunda," and goes down on him based on the elegance of this. Of the architecture.
All right. Wait a minute. Hang on for a second. See, that just goes to show me that you're naive. Whenever you get two gay men together, they don't need to wait for the rotunda. So let me explain the way it works.
Well, yeah, he was going to get laid, but
on
he
one
was
side of
happy
the-
that the precipitating incident was the rotunda.
Men are always looking for a way to have sex. Women are not necessarily doing that. They're looking for the right circumstances. So you get two gay men together, there's going to be sex. You get a man and a woman together, maybe not. You get two lesbians together, least chance, because there's so many things that could go wrong. Now, it's true that lesbians have a reputation of getting together real fast,
See, that
it cools down real quick.
that sounds. I mean, when was the last time you were a lesbian?
Oh, wait. What I'm talking about is backed up by science.
I know, you back up
No. It's science. The studies show the people that have the most sex are gay men. The people that have medium sex are heterosexual couples. And the people that have the least sex are lesbians.
I buy
And
it.
wait a minute, if you're not woke, that makes perfect sense.
No, I buy it about gay men because everybody wants the
Well,
same
men have
thing.
testosterone.
Right.
They're like literally men are just
And-
more.
Anecdotally, and if you listen to enough stand-up routines, you know that that lesbians are known for falling into sexless kind of lulls. But I don't. I mean, you say science backs it up, but you cite a lot of science that isn't really science. So,
I actually read the study because I debated this on Facebook. People were manic. And so I had to actually look up the study, which is a paper where they interviewed thousands of people. And this is the determination. And if you weren't woke, you'd realize automatically that, of course, this makes sense. You've got people that are mostly estrogen, people that are half and half, and people that are loaded with testosterone.
right, I'm not
What's
going to
gonna
argue.
happen?
Let's move on. You wanted to ask JD.
JD, what about musicians?
Okay, so first, should I get in?
Yeah, get
in, kid.
I'll see what we
God.
Here, you can take the chair.
All right. One of the things for me as an artist is not to take myself so seriously. They call that rule number 62. Don't take yourself so serious. Another thing that I learned as an artist, and something to touch base to allude to what Lance was alluding to actually was some of the traps that musicians fall into is like they want to be what they call people pleasers. But the reality is we're not people pleasers. And this is a great insight for me as a human being, as somebody that walks the earth, is that the reality for me was it wasn't that I wasn't a people pleaser. It was that I was a people manipulator, because there was always something in it for me. And once I got that insight, that kind of changed everything, because it allowed me to become authentic, become more authentic. And if I'm going to do something for somebody, it's going to be for fun and for free, because artists, musicians, tend to play a lot for fun and for free, and which is not fair, but it is. That's what life is just. I think that authenticity for a musician is key and it's core, because that allows sometimes because then if you're authentic, you're going to attract other authentic people. I think women in general are authentic, and guys tend to be a little bit more the people manipulators than manipulators. But if an artist is true to himself, then he becomes authentic, and then he's able to find his muse. And once he finds his muse, that's when you can make the most epic progressions on the keyboard, the most epic words, the most epic melodies, and like for me, intimacy is everything. Like intimacy, sexually intimacy, in terms of a song, in terms of they call it there's a term for it. What is it when you're not actually having sex, but you're writing music? That's another form of intimacy. And so I think that's I think that for me as an artist, as a musician, that has to be always like top of mind and be very fresh.
Well, can we segue into Gen Z?
Sure.
Off of that, because you're talking about intimacy, and according to studies, and again, you can't trust every freaking study, but Gen Z looks like it is bad at intimacy, because Gen Z is deep into social media, is deep into all sorts of video games, streaming entertainment. I mean, everybody is, but Gen Z has grown up steeped in it more than any other generation. And that means that, again, according to studies, Gen Z is hooking up less than previous generations, has more virgins, has more people uninterested in being in relationships. So do we think that Gen Z that these studies are true, and that Gen Z sucks at intimacy and at verbal communication?
Can I just raise one last point?
Okay, go ahead. They're still picking a pose, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to end with, so about 10 years ago, I was actually dating somebody that was Miss Universe and somebody that was Miss America. And I never really talk about it. I never say it, but the reason it's very and I'm definitely not the most good looking guy in the world, but my case in point is that when you're not looking for, when you're being authentic and when you're being real with your art, and then another very important element comes to play, and that's the law of proximity. Here in Los Angeles, it just so happens that I had proximity to those people. And so because of the fact that I was in because of what I do, and put me in contact with these people, and then there was a connection. And lastly, my last point is, even though she was Miss Universe, even though I dated Miss America, the reality is, at the end of the day, we're all more similar than we are different. And it was like my girlfriend right now is for me the greatest woman that I've ever dated, and so even greater than Miss Universe. And it's because we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses, and we all have and that's how I like to see things, more as not so much in terms of the outward beauty, but the soul, spirit, and the physical as well. All three combined is the parts are greater than the whole, and the whole is also greater.
Now let's get back
Wait
to
a minute.
this in
We
Gen
want to
Z.
know how you got this.
Loss of proximity.
Yeah, you can't you can't date Miss Universe if you don't run into Miss Universe. But I want to know, am I just an old guy who's bitching about the younger generations? So Gen Z are people born between 97 and 2012, people who are between 13 and 28 years old. And am I just a cranky old guy, or does Gen Z really lack interpersonal skills? What do you guys think?
Will you say that again?
So studies show that Gen Z is having, obviously the younger end of Gen Z. Oh, hey, so younger end of Gen Z obviously shouldn't be having babies because they're only 13, but the older end is 28, and they are not pumping out as many relationships and babies as previous generations at the same age. Do we think those studies are accurate? Do we think that Gen Z is handicapped by, well, also Gen Z is one of the poorer it's harder to move on into adult life when all the older generations have all the frickin' money. So do we think it's that it's true that Gen Z isn't moving into adulthood at the same rate? And is it because they're immersed in their own tech? Or is it because because all the money, the boomers have all the money?
It's weird. I feel like what naturally just came to me is Gen Z is in between these generations of there was the millennials, and then it's Gen Z is that next generation with the internet being so involved, and phones being involved in their life throughout the whole process. And so they're almost the incubator generation that's because the one after Gen Z, now they're already used to.
Yeah, I don't even know what that I don't think it has a name yet.
I don't even.
But
Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha.
So
okay.
it's so they're the Gen Zs, they're a wave that's in between these eras.
Yeah, because Gen Alpha is going to be all gummed up with AI and robot girlfriends that Lance says I love to talk about. And it's I can diss Gen Z, but maybe Gen Z is learning the skills they need to navigate the world that will be dominated by non-human intelligences, creepy AI shit.
They got it covered. By the way, it's me again. But yeah, Cassidy is one that's got Gen Z nephews. I can tell you that they are still out there chasing girls and things along those lines. Because even when we were celebrating my dad's birthday, they were teasing. I think it was the oldest one. I don't think it was the youngest one, that because of his latest lady love and all along those lines. So yeah, they're still out there flirting and going out on dates and things like that, even if they are Gen Z. Because my nephews are 17 and 16 respectively as of this past August and everything like that. By the way, congratulations to Julius. He just got his first acceptance letter to college, and he'll get some more acceptance letters, but he got his first one to a college out here and everything like that. I did have a couple of quick questions, and I saw that Scott's here with me as well and everything. But there was a term that I used to see on the dating apps, and some women would tell me that that's what they liked. And it's a term that Rick will love and everything along those lines. But I would see on people's dating profiles that they really were attracted to people that they considered themselves to be sapiosexual, which means they were attracted.
We just talked about that. You missed it.
Okay, I missed that.
We already did. We did that, and
cool.
There was one young woman I dated, my sister's college roommate, who seemed to be attracted to me because I was smart. Yeah. With other people, there'd be a window that would open up for just a couple minutes that if I was skilled at all, maybe I could have jumped in and taken advantage, but that window usually closed pretty fast. But with this woman, she seemed to be into me, but she was a little psycho. My sister was psycho. They got in a fight. The police came, and I don't know. like
It could be the case and everything. Hey, Cassidy, really quickly, because you were talking about your attraction to your music teacher and everything like that. And I have this theory that sometimes it can work really well if they are people that, to Lance's point earlier, if they are in the arts, but they're in different arts. One of the best couples that I am aware of, and I have mentioned them on other shows. I don't think I've ever mentioned them on your show, and everything like that, is my dad. My dad is an artist like what Lance does and everything. You can go to bambooturtles.com and see that he does a lot of nature art and gourds and everything like that. But his girlfriend of 25 years is a dancer. So I think that because they are in different mediums, that's what makes them a great couple. So I was just wondering your thoughts around people that are in the arts but in different mediums of the arts.
Yeah, I feel like it just depends, like, because I know I do know some people who, like, some musicians who are only really into musicians. I guess it just depends what people are connecting on and how their souls are connecting. Because I feel like I don't have like a preference of it needs to be a certain person, and I feel like attraction wise, it's very wide range. But also, since I've started music school this year, it's more musicians I'm realizing now. But maybe that's also more as I feel like as a creative, the creative field's so vast until the road narrows and you kind of really like, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. I don't know. I think everyone has their preferences. I don't know if it's like all straight all across the board.
so the entertainment industry is brutal. So what I used to see, and I'm sure they're still out there, are mutually deluded couples where mutually mutually supporting, where you have two young, attractive people, and who, it takes years often to succeed in LA, and it helps to be in a couple where you can tell each other that you're really talented. You're a genius. No, you're a genius.
Right.
And it helps to have somebody who can validate you when the freaking industry is not. And I keep trying to turn my wife into half of a deluded couple. I'm like, pretend I'm a tender flower and just tell me good shit about myself. Don't, and she won't. She keeps having to tell me the truth.
But Rick, there's a catch to that as well, though, because I remember they just celebrated, I think I mentioned on one of y'all's past shows, their 80th, meaning Linda's 80th and my dad's 85th birthday. And Dad said that the one thing that he wanted at the birthday party, but he did break down, is that he knew that she was a professional dancer. So he didn't want to have to be embarrassed by his own dancing skills and everything like that. So he said that he would come to the party if he didn't have to dance. So that was something that was the running joke. But he did manage to get on the dance floor, and he's not really a bad dancer. And by the way, I'm worse. To your point earlier, JD, I was the worst athlete. I was the one that ran track and finished dead last every time and everything. But it was that group environment that I was enjoying.
But you did it, though. You did it.
Yep, I did it even though it was horrible.
It's for the losers to win and the winners to lose.
Exactly.
Canadian corner.
Yeah.
What's up, Scott?
Is
What's up, man? No,
any thoughts on Gen Z, or is Gen Z a lost generation?
I look at the Pew and other data quite a lot for different projects, but I always take a step back. People, particularly Americans, they like to use it as points of argument. But like when we say Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, Boomer, Greatest Generation, etc., these are placeholders for demographers to easily catalog things, right? So, I mean, just with that as a preface, it's just ease for demographers to use. Populations are fluid. I like they're definitely more responsible with regards to alcohol compared to most other generations. The people who tend to be using less protection for sex actually tend to be the silver generation. The boomers, not because there's been a string of STDs spread throughout them, and there's also been the silver divorces have actually spiked as well. So it's basically the young people are the ones not drinking and likely to protect the sex if they have proper sex ed, and the older generations are the ones technically divorcing and getting STDs. but you tend to
Yeah,
find
can
like
I,
a dip.
can I just say, that's like, yeah, the boomers are the spoiled generation where places like the villages in Florida are which is a senior living community. They're known for being hotbeds of drunken debauchery and with everybody getting the clap. Yeah, that's
But Scott, as one that's in their 60s, isn't part of the problem that people that are older, like 60s, 70s, and 80s, have this mistaken belief, because even women can get pregnant at that age, that they can't get pregnant. Because I do think that there's a lot of senior people that think that they will never have a child, and that's
the
part of
boomers are not getting the youngest boomer is 61, so she's not getting pregnant without some high powered IVF.
But
Sorry.
you could have an older man with a younger woman, right? But I
Yeah.
think with, I mean, yes. So, I mean, there are legitimate concerns around lack of healthy coupling, about some national birth rates, but not entirely. I have looked at the population in review 2024 of the UN. Much of the claims on Twitter and on Blue Sky are basically overblown in different directions. You're probably looking at about 40 since 1980 have been what they call year on year or absolute decline. But even places like Hungary, they'll have 1 year where they decline, then another year they're stagnant, then another year they might be up, right? So those factors aren't taken into account. There's probably 60 to 70 or so that are stagnant, and then a more significant portion, over 100, that are still growing. So really what they're talking about are primarily Anglophone countries like Western Europe, North America, and very significantly in East Asian countries where, so it's a dual argument. You need more people born in those countries and fewer in more sustainable levels in countries that are considered developed or third world or typically tend to be on the higher levels of poverty. Women tend to have lower quality in the societies. But so it's a legitimate point to make, particularly about the younger generations, but it's not nearly to the degree you'd think. And it'd probably only be legitimate somewhere between 25 to 40 years from now. So it'd be a conversation you want to have maybe 15, 20 years from now, because then it could be a consistent sort of societal conversation. But so Gen Z, responsible on alcohol, concerning about lack of partnering up, and irresponsible in the same way with regards to protected sex as with the silver generations. But the silver generations are the ones typically going through a divorce revolution. And fewer people are marrying, which is a problem to some degree, although it could be how we're defining it, because religion has declined massively in the United States. And so the definition of what they're considering marriage could just be considered partnership. So that's also a change too. Yeah. So the lines aren't necessarily as clear. Similar to the original point about using cohort demographic trends to stereotype whole cohorts, then Americans get to argue. Music.
Yeah. Music.
Te di todo, pero no fue suficiente para ti. Y ahora estoy llorando, solo pensando en ti. Te di todo, pero nunca me besaste. Y los días son muy largas, las noches no amanecen sin ti. Me prometiste tu amor, creyéndote por un error estoy cansado. Me prometiste serme fiel, pero seguiste tú con él, estoy cansado. Quiero dormir por siempre. Hola mujer, te invito hoy a tomarnos un café, conocer un poco más disfrutar nuestra paz entre tú y yo. Hola mujer, te invito para el cine, divertido y a reír, tan bonito a sentir solo tú y yo. Tengo amor por ti, te quiero mucho. Tengo calor por ti yo lucho.
So Lance, what makes a Renaissance style painting? I see you've made your first marks on the canvas. You've picked a pose?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that Cassidy's not completely satisfied, and I can understand that because we wanted to be serious this time. So right now, and now you may say, why does Cassidy have to be satisfied? Well, because she doesn't have to be satisfied, but she knows herself better than I do. And so, as a rule, I always ask the model what they think. I may not do what the model says, but I'm interested in their input. Now, this particular piece is not going to be uh, about my philosophy of life, particularly. It's going to be something about her and something about how I see her. So, uh, which is not terribly uh, intellectual, but there's a right way and a wrong way, nevertheless. So, as far as it being a Renaissance type painting, I personally don't use that description um, because technically I'm a Baroque painter. The Baroque era was 100 years after the Renaissance. Uh, I mean, 75 years, depending on how you judge it. And it was a period of greater realism. So if you look at your screen right now, the lighting that I'm in is typical for Baroque art. So yeah, this is Rembrandt lighting.
Do you mean raking light, bright light, and deep shadow?
Yeah, I mean, if you look, there's actually, you see this little triangle right here? If you can see a little triangle, then it's Rembrandt light. See, so what's happening is there is shadow from above. My head's not turned the whole way. It's not turned this way. It's turned this way. So this is a 3/4 view with a little bit of light right there. That's Rembrandt lighting. That's lighting from the 17th century. But there are other types of art that was done in the Baroque era. For example, Rubens painted roughly the same time as Rembrandt, and he did a lot of very brightly lit paintings. His greatest student, Van Dyck, also did highly lit painting. A highly lit painting is where there's hardly any shadow on the face. So as you can see, I know the pole is there, but there's hardly any shadow on my face right now. This would be typical of Van Dyck. So, but all of them, Rubens, Rembrandt, Van Dyck, Caravaggio, would be distinguished by having highly realistic work. And the Renaissance was often idealized. Okay, so number one, the Renaissance would usually make people look a little bit better than they really do. But also the Renaissance would iron out certain, details and textures. The Baroque era was the high point of realism. So they had, in the Baroque era, people looked more three-dimensional generally, more 3D, more textured. So if they had wrinkles, the wrinkles had textures, and really they would sometimes put texture in the paint to create the wrinkle on the surface of the canvas. So the wrinkle was sometimes caused by a wrinkle in the paint. Whereas in the Renaissance, people were very smooth. And you could say that the Mona Lisa by Da Vinci was as three-dimensional as any Baroque painting, of course, but it was more the exception than the rule. Generally, the Renaissance was pretty idealized work and not necessarily as 3D as the Baroque era.
So this afternoon, I was posing for you. We should show that meeting at some.
Yeah, we can do that
But
next
the
week.
deal is that I'm twice Cassidy's age. Can you talk about the issues and pluses or minuses about painting somebody Cassidy's age versus painting somebody who's crinkly and rumpled?
Well, that's part of the problem I have with painting Cassidy, because she can look like a fashion model, and my concern is that I can make her very brightly lit, full of makeup, and she'll look very glamorous, but she won't really look that much different in some ways than a lot of other fashion models who are covered with the same makeup and getting the same lighting. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to show Cassidy in a more natural light. Say if she was in a room and a light hits her, I don't want it to look like it's posed by a photographer to sell clothing or jewelry. And the beauty of a guy like Rick is an older man looks better if they're craggy, if they look like they've had some mileage, because wisdom is attractive. And so when it comes to Rick, I just shine a spotlight on him. It's the shadows go dark, the lights go bright, the wrinkles are clear, and he looks like he has some inner wisdom to offer. I mean, it's a cliche, but you're painting. The difference between a painting and a photo is a painting has to be something that you look at a lot and you don't get bored with, and it exudes character and personality. And so Rick has that in spades. There's almost no, you don't have to do much to get that out into your painting. So if you hang a painting of Rick on the wall, that painting will begin to communicate to you. It will offer you things. Whereas with Cassidy, I can get an examination of pure form, meaning these are what good clean lines are. This is bone structure. This is a good proportion for lips to eyes, et cetera, et cetera. But after you've had the experience of enjoying that, will the painting say anything else? Could you imagine what her personality is like? Could you imagine speaking with her? What do you think she'd be like as a person if you were having coffee with her? What do you think she'd do?
JT is showing your painting, which took like a year.
There's a lot of glare on that painting, so I'm going to raise the. Okay, well, I'm going to raise this up. Oh, something happened. We lost the light. Okay. Well, Rick, get your hands off my knee. Right, there you go.
So
That's what you're supposed to say. Whenever it goes dark, all right, listen, if it's 1970 and you're ever doing something where it goes dark, you say to the person next to you, get your hands out of my lap. Okay, that's just a joke you can use. It's a joke that you can use when you go home to your friends. All right, go ahead.
So, people, skilled bakers have baked cakes that look exactly like cats. They really look like sleeping cats. And the bakers, and then they have a live cat standing next to the cake cat kitchen table. And they do an experiment where they take a big old butcher knife, they cut the cake cat in half, and we get to see what the real cat does. And the real cat goes crazy in a different way. Like one cat jumps 2 feet in the air and skitters away, smashes into the wall, runs out of the room. Another cat attacks the lady with the knife. And like there are like half a dozen of these videos. And the cat like goes crazy in a different way in every video. And it's funny as hell. And what took me a while to realize, what Lance didn't realize is freaking AI, which is crazy because like the one where they all look great. And totally, the one where the cat jumps in the air and falls to the ground and splays out and then skitters across the slick floor, smashes into the wall, gets up, runs out of the room, completely real looking. They all look completely real until you think about it for a second, realize that a real cat would smell it's not an actual cat, it's a fucking cake, and would be like, all right, start cutting a cake. The real, and we realize that it's nonsense, but it looks so convincing. So my question for you, Lance, is this a problem for art that AI can be so freaking good at it?
Well, I've been saying this my whole life. It's the same thing as photography. Before we had photography, after we had photography, we had digital art, and now we've got AI. None of it has much to do with what I do, because AI is something that's seen on a screen, and what I do hangs on a wall, and it can be 10 by 20 feet. And there's a big difference between an oil painting and a photograph. So if you can have photographs and you can have oil paintings, then you can have AI and you can have oil paintings. Finally, it's kind of sad. People don't really know the difference between an image. I've had famous art critics actually write to me and say, aha, now that we've got AI, you're out of business. It's like, well, you're going to put out of business people that do storyboards for films, people that do advertisements. If somebody wants Santa Claus holding a Coke, they don't have to hire Norman Rockwell. They can just say it and the AI will make it. But AI does not replace the Mona Lisa. AI doesn't replace the David. Those things have to be done by hand. And even though there are machines that can sculpt in marble, they still have to be finished by hand because all the detail is in the final quarter of an inch of surface of the stone, which has to be done by a human. And the difference between a sculpture is all in the final quarter of an inch. It's the surface. So, long way of saying, no, if I wasn't put out of business by photography, I'm not going to be put out of business by AI. But I have an intellectual subject.
But wait, no, I want to finish this one.
Because we're not being very intelligent.
Hold on one second, because you are being in if you do a painting, I saw a painting you did of a family of 5 people, was it? And but went for 50 grand or something. But that doesn't come along. If this were 1880, you would be solid painting the daughters of robber barons. If this were 1680, you'd be booked solid. So is our photography and AI making people lose their eye for art?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no question that trying to make a living as an oil painter is not a smart move if you want to make good money. The oil painters that I know that are making a lot of money they're painting cowboys and ballerinas. I mean, so if you're trying to keep your integrity and just sell oil paintings for a living, you're going to have a terrible experience. In spite of the fact that my father was a famous writer, I've lived in poverty my entire life, and that's the deal. I mean, it's true that I don't do very well financially, but I do generally the paintings the way I want to do them.
You were doing costume caricatures at one point, or
Yeah. Okay. The horror jobs I've had is I sculpted toys at Mattel Toys, and I felt fine about it. I did the best goddamn toys a kid could ever buy. I was very happy about it. And the funny thing is, the people at Mattel realized that they could use me to do the portraits. So I wound up doing classical portraits and classical figures. So when people buy an action figure of Harry Potter, they don't realize that it's not done by a machine. At least it wasn't. It's done by a sculptor. So I wound up doing classical art at Mattel for their toys, which was fine. And then when I worked at theme parks, I did portraits. I didn't do caricatures. I said, look, my strength is to do realism. So I was one of the few people doing realistic portraits. So I still ended up doing classical art, even though I was working at a theme park.
A game at job.
Yeah, you mentioned this.
Where you tried to do portraits of such mastery, you tried to make somebody cry every time you did them.
Yeah, okay, we've mentioned this, but it bears repeating since this is all I'm going to get out of the years I did that. Every week I would do a pastel of a child so good that the mother would cry. And that happened every week. And I ended up leaving Mattel with my costume full of $100 bills for Disneyland. Yeah. I ended up leaving Disneyland with my costume full of $100 bills. So I wound up being the best paid Disneyland worker ever. Because even though I was getting minimum wage, they were showering me with money. No, they didn't. You were allowed to get a tip as a portrait artist. So, in that regard, as a matter of fact, I can't help repeating this. It's my proudest moment as an artist. At one point, there was a longer line to get their portrait drawn by me or seen to watch me draw than there was to go on the pirate ride. So there was a massive crowd around me of like 100 people watching me draw.
But you caused disruption because that wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, that didn't work out. So put it this way: the nail that stands out gets hammered down. So that's all I have to say about that. Should we move? But I did have to wait. I had something intellectual. I have a topic. Yeah. So it turns out that this week it was revealed that the BBC actually rewrote one of Trump's speeches so that a week before the election, 2024, they put together a composite of his speech on January the 6th. And what they did was on January the 6th, they had a part where Trump says, let's go down to the Capitol and celebrate our congressmen who are going to do the right thing. And I'll go there with you in so many words. So the BBC said they had the part where he said, let's go down to the Capitol. And then they spliced something he said an hour later in the speech where he said, and fight, fight, fight. So the BBC version was where he says, let's go down to the Capitol and fight like hell. And fight, fight, fight. And the reason they did that was so that they could make it seem like Trump had caused the riot at the Capitol. And they were hoping to influence American voters that were watching the BBC. So this week, Trump said, you know what? That is an evil use of media. It's propaganda. It's exactly what we hope AI doesn't do. And they just use splicing, editing. And so he mentioned this, and he said, and the BBC has now resigned. The two top people of the BBC have resigned. But Trump says that's not good enough. I'm going to have to sue the BBC for between 1 and 5 billion. Yeah. And frankly, I'm all for it because I myself personally caught the BBC lying about things that I know about, where they'll edit things in the most outrageously biased way. And I really hope that he destroys that company.
So let me say that the UK has much stricter libel laws than the US. So especially with regard to celebrities, you can say a lot more in the US about celebrities that's scurrilous and without getting in trouble because they're celebs compared to in the UK. So if Trump feels that he's been wrong, he can take the BBC to court and see what kind of verdict he gets. So that's thing one, that if he really feels strongly about it, then he should take the BBC to court and see how, a jury over there or a barrister over there feels. The other thing is you were saying the BBC was attempting to influence the US elections. I didn't know about that. How many American voters watch the frickin' BBC?
Well, I see the BBC at least once a week. In fact, I hear it every time I put NPR on late at night. They have a show every single week on NPR.
All right.
Well, but beyond that, Trump actually sued ABC this year as well.
And ABC settled for $16 million.
And the reason is because they accused him of rape. That little rat that was
George Stephanopoulos. Who's a Good Morning America guy.
He called Trump a rape. I don't need help. Thank you for including his name. Stephanopoulos said he was a rapist, and Trump has never been convicted of rape by anybody.
Trump
he
comes off as a rapist to me.
Well, you may get sued, Cassidy, so be careful what you say.
Well, what about these Epstein files?
Well, hold on. Before we get there, let's go back to the $16 million, because he's won multi-million-dollar settlements from several. I think CBS settled with him too. But the thought is that, according to some legal experts, big media companies are settling with him for between 10 and 16 million dollars because Trump is going to be president for another 3 years and 2 months, and the companies have to, want to survive for that period of time, so they throw some money at him so he doesn't do even more draconian stuff to them. That it's cheaper to pay. Disney is $1 billion company and they own ABC, and by paying Trump 16 million, they protect the rest of their business.
Yeah, and also it's a good way to keep them from lying about it, which is the whole point. I don't know why you seem to like the idea of a company lying about the opposing candidate and deceptively editing. What if they said Kamala Harris was a rapist? Would you think that was okay?
I would have been interested in seeing what a trial jury said, because the judge in his civil cases where he was being tried for defamation against E. Jean Carroll said that the judgment amounted to Trump being legally, civilly called a rapist, because the two different juries decided that he put his fingers inside E. Jean Carroll without her consent, which in some states falls under the definition of rape.
Yeah, actually, I don't believe he was accused of that.
Yeah, digital penetration.
I don't
Yes.
think he was found guilty of that. I think he was found guilty of some kind of impropriety, but I don't think it went that
No,
far.
it's digital penetration, and the only reason it was digital is because he was smashing her face into the wall, and she couldn't tell exactly what was being put in her.
Okay, I believe he was accused of some sort of battery or assault or something like that. It didn't go as far as rape, or he would have lost the suit. But beyond that,
it didn't go before a court. They settled without going to trial.
Okay, so that means that he was not convicted of rape.
No. The ABC thing. The ABC settled without.
Right.
But the judge in the case where he was assigned civil penalties said that it was tantamount to rape.
Okay,
So,
but
Cassidy,
wait a minute. Before you go on,
rapist.
but
It's like pretty obvious. Like anyone who thinks he's not right now, I'm just like, come on. It's like there's pictures of him with Jeff or whatever is his name, that Epstein guy.
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, and he was good friends with him for a long time. And at this point, I'm like, okay, his whole aura, everything about him, and then the way that he was with women in his Hollywood days, like he has some skeletons in his closet. That's all I gotta say. And also, there's some new things on him implementing ICE on the Native Americans of this land. I have no respect for the man at all. Like any ounce of like, okay, maybe no, not even a little bit. And if you can't see he's some like white colonizer. He's a colonizer. He wants us to be this whitewashed, like American dream, and he's pinning people against each other. He is the Native American land that was stolen from the white colonizer man. He is reliving that whole thing. He is everything bad about America. And I will say it, and I'll clap my fucking hands louder and louder. He is not a good person.
Yeah.
And not a man of God.
So Lance likes Trump as president. So let me ask Lance this. Does it matter in his role of president whether, because a majority of people, if you look at polling, agree somewhat with you that Trump is not a good dude. So I will ask Lance, who supports Trump, does it matter whether Trump is a good man or not?
Okay, so let me get started. Number one, I would just like to say that the OJ jury found him innocent of murder, and everyone knew he was guilty. So the fact that a jury in heavily Democrat state. They just elected Mamdani, a communist, or Mamdani,
A
communist.
socialist.
No, he's a communist. They just elected this guy. So if they're going to elect a communist, they're gonna the same jury has no problem accusing a Republican of rape. So I don't judge.
I believe
His
half the jury in one of his
I
cases
don't care.
were Trump supporters.
I don't. That's nonsense. They New York. You can get a New York jury to accuse a Republican of anything. I don't believe it any more than I believe that OJ was innocent. That's ridiculous. And I'm certainly not going to base my decisions on what a New York jury says, or any jury for that matter. I base my decisions on what he's doing for our country. So you asked me.
Beginning to start a civil war is what he's doing. He's like dividing us. Like he's not making us strong as a people. Like people. If you look around, the diversity of people who are helping each other and moving towards a shared common goal of humanity. And it's not like I identify, I think, as more of a socialist because I've lived it where I've made like hundreds of thousands of dollars and then got sick and lost it all and actually had to rely on the government for a little bit, like in order to survive. So that's like my whole reason is personal, but like also on a bigger end of things, like I think I like Mamdani. I like him because he's about the people. And he's not saying he's like a socialist Democrat or something. Like he's not saying he's like, all we need is baseline things. So the culture of the city can be preserved. And if you guys want to be capitalists and make your money on top of that, do it. But like we need a baseline of socialism as just to preserve the human spirit, because otherwise the spirit's already dying. The spirit is like
let's
a
talk
culture
about the
of
specific. Can we talk about the specifics of his proposals that get him? I mean, he calls himself a socialist, but it comes down to specifics. So New York City has thousands of supermarkets, but Mamdani wants to have 5 supermarkets competing against the thousands of other supermarkets that are owned by the city, one in each of the 5 boroughs, where there are some price controls. So, which doesn't seem to be super duper socialist, because it's just 5 against thousands. People are still going to go to Gristedes and Red Apple and all the other supermarkets. Okay, another thing he wants to do is it costs $2.90 to ride the bus, get on the subway right now. He wants to make it free.
transportation.
Yeah.
And then rent control.
And he wants
For artists and
so
like,
there is some rent control for people living in buildings built before 1947 can get like really good rent control where everybody knows, if you live in New York, stories of some grandma who's paying like $150 a month for their apartment because they've lived there for 60 years. And then the landlord's trying to get them out by gluing their locks, refusing to fix anything, letting mold go crazy. Because if you get the grandma out, you can put new tenants in for $5,000 a month. But there are very few people with that kind of rent control because it only applies to certain buildings. There's rent stabilization for buildings built before 1974, where they can only raise the rent by a certain percent a year. Again, only a few people have that deal, and it's a great freaking deal because you might be paying $800 a month for a $6,000 dollar a month apartment, and he wants to give more people rent control. And he also, and I don't know how this will work at all, he wants to give free child care. So those are his main proposals that are in the direction of socialism.
yeah.
And
Well, and I think from watching some of like his speeches and stuff, what I liked is he was talking about like he was like for the people, and he was talking about like the struggle of the people, and he was like, this city, inflation's only getting higher, and like the people who actually built and raised the city are getting kicked out of the city. Artists, musicians, what the culture is built off of in New York, they can't even live there anymore. So then New York's not becoming New York anymore. So
well, okay, so
let's change it.
So, but All
And
right,
it's
so
almost like we're
but
talking
the mayor,
about
the
this
mayor is
culture was right. Hold on, I'm in a roll.
Okay.
Women can speak. How this culture is primarily Latino and Latina culture because Mexico is right there. We're on the border. It was heavily influenced by Spanish culture, and then ICE is going and fucking everyone up and pulling people out of their neighborhoods. Like it's just madness. So yeah, we need to.
well. Let's all right. Let's talk about New York City because the mayor really isn't in charge of the city. Money is in charge of New York City. You look at the skyline with the crazy new skyscrapers put up with $150 million penthouses. That's money running the city. And so he may institute some changes, but New York rolls along with money in charge.
Yeah.
And so,
I think
I don't think he's going to destroy the city. And I think the artists will do what artists have always done in New York City, which is move to the shitty neighborhoods. When I was there in the 80s, shitty neighborhood was Alphabet City. You didn't want to go there after dark, but that's what we were told. But it turns out people were living there. In fact, I knew like artists were living there, and yeah, there were bums and gangs, but they were taking these lofts and turning them into art, artists, these warehouses, turning them into artist lofts, buying buildings for 70 grand. And 20 years later, those buildings were going for $20 million. Again, money drives the city, and I think artists will figure out a way to survive in the shittier parts of town.
But as just like how you see it here, as inflation rises, so even like the shittier ghetto parts are now it's becoming gentrified. So like even like
Yeah, but that always happens.
Yeah.
That's that money drives shit in.
but then eventually no one can live.
All
and
right,
then
so let's
that's what happens.
so we're not going to have time for
Do
4
I get to
episodes. Yeah, go ahead, Lance.
Okay.
So let me just say that we got to get done in the next 22 minutes, which means this is going to be our last episode of the night.
Okay. So probably the most important thing to destroy a city is crime. It all boils down to crime because you can have a poor area, but if it's safe, then people can still have good lives. If the crime goes out of control, then they will destroy the area. So everything will be, what will happen is the area, businesses will close down. Besides the fact that the people living in these areas will suffer victimization of criminals. And what happens is more and more people want to move to the rich areas where they're safer. And the rush to the rich areas is what causes the rents to increase. So the problem with New York is they let in massive numbers of illegal aliens from the third world. And they've also got a policy called no cash bail, and various other policies that make it possible for criminals to stay on the street. Now, there are countless circumstances where criminals have done violent crimes and they've simply been released because socialists and communists use the argument that if bail is based on cash, then rich people have an advantage because they can bail themselves out, whereas poor people have a disadvantage. So the solution was not to charge bail to anybody, which meant that crime skyrocketed. So under Democrat leadership, the all available housing was the prices went dramatically up because of the massive infusion of immigrants and illegal immigrants and the skyrocketing crime rates. Now, what Mamdani
Well, can I respond to that?
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Because what you
No,
said is
no,
bullshit.
No, it's not bullshit. New York is not safe. Do you understand? The
Google
crime
AI
rate-
says,
No,
I
I
know
don't
you
care.
think
I don't care what Google
New
AI
York City
says.
consistently ranks as one of the safest large cities in the United States
Okay.
with a homicide rate of 4.1 per 100,000, which is lower than the US average of 5.6 per 100,000, and 1/13 of the homicide rate of cities like St. Louis, with 54 murders per 100,000 compared to 4.
Okay, Rick, this is where you become irrational.
Because
Okay.
I'm using actual statistics.
No, because you don't understand that the statistics are irrelevant. Let me explain.
It matters to the dead people behind the statistics.
Yeah, and your understanding is what's causing the dead people. The problem, Rick, is that even though New York may have a lower crime rate than St. Louis,
1/13,
even if it's 1/13, Rick,
7%.
even
of
if it's
St.
7%, even if it's 8%, it doesn't matter because New York is insanely violent and insanely unsafe. Now, let me continue. So the problem is huge swaths of New York, in spite of what Google AI says, are unlivable. They're nightmares. And people are being released after committing crimes, in spite of what Rick thinks, in spite of what the statistics say. You see, one of the things that Trump proved when he sent the National Guard to Washington, D.C., was that you could cut crime by 80% if you enforce the laws. So what Mamdani wants to do is continue the policies that led to the crime rise in New York, and he also wants to release more criminals. He's actually suggested at certain points that he'd like to close the prisons. Okay? So what is going to happen is New York is going to be deeply ridden with crime, and all the left-wing liberal women that voted for him are going to get raped far more often. Oh, yes, they will. And they'll think of themselves, after they've been raped by the criminals that Mamdani has released, they'll say, well, I'd vote for him again because nothing could ever change my mind once I've been brainwashed. The fact that I can't walk in the city of New York without being attacked doesn't bother me because it's good. It's good. We have socialism. That's good for America. So they'll be okay with it.
Higher vibration.
Yeah, it's a higher vibration. They'll be fine with it. Let me just continue. So under Giuliani, who was a bad Republican, New York was the safest it's ever been in modern times. And that's what New York needs. There's more, but I think we're running out of time. And Rick, there's more reasons I hate Mamdani, but I could go on for too long, and I don't want to take advantage.
I've been like, I will shop for bikinis online because then all my pop-up ads are people in bikinis. But I've also been shopping for St. Louis real estate because I can't believe how cheap property is in St. Louis. You can buy a beat-up property, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow for $50,000. That same house would sell for $600,000 in Los Angeles. And the reason that St. Louis is so cheap is because they have a terrible freaking crime rate. You can, I keep trying bugging Carol. Let's move to St. Louis. Let's buy a shitload of houses for $25,000 a piece and flip them. And with that, for the money we make, we can buy private security so we don't get killed in St. Louis.
So don't let inflation get you. Go to St. Louis.
And go to St. Louis with a flak jacket. Okay,
right. Well,
Mark.
I would like to emphasize one. There are many points, but I want to emphasize this one point. Every left-wing woman I've ever met is against the patriarchy because men are violent and rapists.
And
And then-
controlling.
Yeah, and then they vote for judges who release rapists so they can rape more liberal women.
I think that's God. I think it's just like this is the thing is I think the government has us all freaking propaganda brainwashed to a point where there's like a far right conservative agenda that's brainwashing the conservatives, and then there's also probably a far left like the other way agenda, and they're all to an extent this like spectrum of like that is like if you lean too far on either side, you're gonna come into.
What do you think of violence against women? Do you think rapists should serve lengthy prison sentences?
Yes,
I think
but
they should be killed. I think they should be executed.
I don't really know how I feel on all of it.
Then
yet.
you're a Republican.
What?
All right. So
You're a Republican because you think they deserve lengthy
No, but did you
sentences.
just hear what I said? I said leaning too far on either. I'm an independent.
Yeah,
Leaning too
but
far on either side.
Mamdani wants to release them early.
He doesn't want to release rapists. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
taken
yeah.
out of context.
It's a no cash bail system.
When you said that, like immediately, I was like, oh, he probably wants to focus on like who's inside the prisons because there's a lot of people wrongfully inside.
No,
of
that's
prisons
not what he
who
says.
Don't get
That's
rehabilitation.
not what he says. He says that if you commit a rape, you will be released without paying for bail until your trial that could be a year later.
He didn't. This is
Yeah.
specific word.
Yes,
for
this
word.
is the New
I will do
New
my
York
studies and
policy.
bring it back.
They have a no cash bail policy, which means you just simply request to be bailed out. They release you, and then you are free until you stand trial and you're convicted. Do you want that?
I'll do my.
Do you
research.
think that's safe for women?
I think it's way taken out of context.
No,
I
that's
think-
what's happening. It's
Yeah,
the cashless bail policy. I'm not making it up. I'm not taking it out of context. They just released a guy that slashed someone with a butcher knife.
So Lance, hasn't LA tried that? Aren't there people who are saying, yeah, it hasn't worked out in a certain number of instances?
Well, they just got rid of George Gascon because he was not
Yeah.
prosecuted.
So anyway,
Oh, wait, but this is one of those things too, where it's like, just like the war on drugs, how like after they let up, like in certain countries, there's like the less like war on drugs that they are. There's actually studies that there's actually less drug addiction in these countries. So it's like it's one of those psychological things where I feel like if I feel like this is taken out of context. I need to do my research. I feel like he probably is doing something with the prison system where he wants to like get people who are unlawfully terminated. Like,
Okay, you're just
better.
making this up.
All right.
You have no idea.
I really intuitive.
So,
of a
yeah,
woman,
okay,
and
all
I,
right.
like, I connect,
All right,
and I-
we can't work
All
with
right.
intuition now. We
So
have to,
I have a theory.
No,
about it.
I'm really like you guys don't even know how deep I am in certain areas, and then it's like I can connect the dots psychologically.
But let me offer a theory about this.
But
And
it's
now-
just frustrating because it's feminine energy, and it's like, yeah,
Oh, okay. One problem is that we saw some demographics, and 100% of our viewers are guys. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I hope we start getting more women viewers, more than the zero we
y'all
have.
better listen up. No, just
Okay.
kidding.
Not 100%.
We have
I don't think, man.
You know how guys are. But one problem is that, like, you think the Republicans are bullshit, and you think the Democrats are bullshit.
Well, too far on either side. They
All right, but
are.
the deal is, like, the U.S. is built for a two-party system because, like, our electoral
Yeah,
system
don't-
means,
it
like,
hurts.
the electoral system means that you have to win a majority of the electoral votes. If nobody wins 50%, then it goes to the House to pick the president. Nobody wants that. So, like, other countries have parliamentary systems where you team up with other parties, and you've got dozens of parties until you hit 50%, and then you have a ruling coalition. And that has terrible problems too. Like, you look at Israel now, where Netanyahu is teamed up with these super right-wing assholes to run the country, and it's not great over there either. And I look at it, okay, the Big Bang Theory of the universe.
No,
Hold
man.
on, wait.
But can I add one little thing? Not only is it not great, but they just demolished an entire fucking whole like
other
body of people, like
yeah.
genocide. So that's what
All right, so yeah, I mean that whole body of people is governed by
it
Hamas.
already happened here on the Native American.
All right, but okay. Here's the
Just add
wait. Let me make an analogy. The Big Bang Theory was confirmed roughly in 1964 when they found background photons left over from the initial explosion. So that's the Big Bang Theory is 60 years old, and in the 60 years they keep accumulating observational evidence that it doesn't quite work. So after 60 years, it becomes increasingly clear that they're going to have to fix the Big Bang Theory or drastically, because it keeps accumulating issues, problems. That happens with a lot of scientific theories, like Newton's universal gravitation. It works great most of the time, but they started accumulating anomalies that it took Einstein to come along and say, well, here's a more comprehensive theory that includes Newton, but also accounts for this other stuff. And this two-party democracy that we've had for 250 years has recently accumulated problems where certain entities and trends have learned how to break it. So now we are facing a busted ass democracy where it functioned really well for 2 centuries, but now it's accumulating cracks where, like, for one thing, like, the news, every news has, the 24-hour news, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Every one of those leans one way or the other politically, which makes people crazy in one direction or another, depending on which news you're watching. That's a significant crack in democracy that and social media makes people crazy. So we're all cracked, and it's like the Big Bang is accumulating cracks, and our democracy is accumulating. Like, people have learned how to break it, and
because it was built on shaky ground.
Well, it wasn't shaky for 200. Yeah, it was built on some horrible shit and a lot of good shit.
But that means it's so, just like, how, like, you say it, like, if you take 2 people and it's like, if a relationship is built on not a strong foundation, it could go a very long time, but one day that foundation might break.
Well, it might, but I'm hoping we can patch the frickin' foundation without having.
What's happening right now.
Yeah, but we need to patch it without the country just flying apart into pieces. I've read a lot of science fiction set in the near future where the United States has broken apart into different nations, or essentially that, and that's bad. We fought a whole war 150 years ago to prevent that. We're better as a complete nation, and we have to figure out how to patch the cracks.
Exactly.
All right.
Speaking of patching the cracks, I got a question for you, and it's actually based somewhat on what y'all been talking about, but also on one of your favorite people, and it's the person who you used to work for, Rick, and everything like that. But I was reading an article, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago, from Jimmy Kimmel's wife, who is also one of his writers, and it might have been even when you were there and everything, but she was talking about this notion of divorcing people over their political views and everything like that. So she was actually saying that she had lost a lot of relationships because of having some very staunch conservatives in her family and everything. And ironically, it was in one of the studies that said liberals were quicker to divorce people over political views than conservatives. So I was wondering y'all's thoughts around that, because it was Jimmy Kimmel's wife that was the article that kind of said.
Let's talk about 2 things. I've seen a study, I saw one today, that says that 82% of conservatives have friends who are liberal, but only 64% of liberals have friends who are conservative. So you could argue that makes conservatives more tolerant. I don't know. I like my friends are my only friends pretty much are the people in this frickin' room, and this guy is a crazy ass conservative. So I don't know. You can have, if you're willing to do a lot of yelling, you can have a cross political friendship. And yeah, Molly, who used to be my boss, a great freaking boss, great at her job. Lance would accuse her of being woke. I would say not. She comes from a conservative family, and she's understandably sad about the political divisions in her family.
All right, let me say something. Okay.
Okay.
I've lost about 10 very close friends because I didn't vote for Biden or Harris. And I have, in my life, I have never cut someone off because we disagreed about politics. I think it's, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I did something that petty. I think it's petty and vile to do that. But I've lost the majority of my friends because they were all left-wingers. They were all Democrats. And when they found out I voted for Trump, they stopped speaking to me. So I think that Democrats have gone crazy. And they've actually, there is actually a psychiatrist that was on the news the other day that was saying that he keeps treating people that have Trump derangement syndrome, where they really do, they can't lead normal lives because they hate Trump so much. So, one, I think the Democrats are being brainwashed very effectively, and I've seen how they do it. I listen to Democrat news every day, and I can tell when they're being lied to. But also I think that these Democrats, we think Democrats are wrong. Democrats think that Trump supporters are evil. And so for them, it's I guess they think they have to cut us off. They have to hate us. They have to shoot us. But I think it's very, very childish, very petty. And one reason I know we're right.
All right. So let me say,
I would like to ask every
Well-
conservative to go spend some time on Native American reservations and see how they're living as people, to spend some time in your Spanish neighborhoods and watch people getting taken away from their family up front, children and everything, to go through times where it's like you might need some food stamps and then get those taken away. Maybe you need, and I would like them to come back and tell me their opinions on.
I
can
would
tell
hold
you
on,
my
hold on,
opinion
wait,
because-
let me say a thing. My turn. So I would say that ICE is being a little less selective than you might want them to be. We were told that they would take away all the bad hombres, and like preschool teachers aren't really bad hombres. But let me say one more thing, and then everybody, TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, cuts both ways. Now, let me say, I definitely suffer from TDS. We showed that painting of me from 8 years ago. No, you don't, because you have to adjust the light and everything. That was me 20 pounds heavier. When Trump got elected, I just started shitting uncontrollably for a couple of years, and I couldn't hold food in. I would eat carbs, and I would just get the shits because I'd been trained to be politically aware. You can call me woke because I had a job where I had to pay attention to politics when I wrote jokes for late night TV. And so, yeah, I cared too much and it gave me the shits. On the other hand, MAGA is a form of Trump derangement, the opposite form of Trump derangement syndrome, where you think everything that fucking guy does is great. Now, Trump
Can I
has,
respond?
hold on, Trump has done like some decent stuff. He did prison reform after Kanye and Kim Kardashian talked to him in his first term. That was decent. So, I mean, I think he's done like a crazy amount of terrible shit, but you guys think that everything he does is awesome.
Okay. So here are the things that Trump did that I agree with.
No, you can't give a list of like 12 things. We're already over time.
Well, wait a minute. Then
I listed one thing that Trump
I
did.
have to just do what you say. So here, I'll list a few that I can think of off the bat. I'm very happy that Trump closed the border. I'm very happy that we're deporting illegal aliens. This is the way every country has always been my entire life, in every country on earth. You don't have an open border. If millions of people come over the border, millions of people get to go home to where they came from. That's not being cruel. That's just enforcing your border.
Let me ask you
Wait,
this, Lance.
wait,
Let
I'm
me
not-
ask you this.
wait, I
In
thought I
what
got to
way?
speak.
In what way has your life improved because the border has been shut down?
Well, as a victim of crime constantly in this part of town from illegal aliens, I would say I look forward to a safer life. I also um, have found that illegal aliens took up all the social services. The hospital, when I go to the hospital in this area, every single person in the hospital is an illegal alien. And we're talking about the night, for example, when I was stabbed, I had to go to the hospital and there were 300 people ahead of me in line, and none of them were American citizens. I mean, it was like being in a.
How do
in
you
a town.
know that? Did
I
you
know that
ask
because-
every
because
single one of them?
I know that because I didn't hear English spoke.
Yeah.
I had to wander around, and every single person was speaking in Spanish, and they were not. They weren't dressed the way that Mexican Americans dress. They're like, for example, JD is a Mexican American. I can tell instantly that he's not an illegal alien. So the problem, eventually they put me through. They let me go in ahead because I was bleeding, and they were afraid that my injury might cause me to lose my arm. So I did get to go ahead, but the hospital staff did tell me that the entire hospital was filled with illegal aliens that were ahead of me because they don't have typical health insurance. So what they do is they use the emergency room whenever they're sick. So if the child gets the flu or pneumonia, they just go to the emergency room. So emergency rooms that were built for the occasional crime victim or heart attack victim can't get in to see a doctor because there are thousands of illegal aliens taking up those services. So yes, I anticipate there will be less crime. I probably won't be attacked as much.
How many
I might
times have
be-
you been attacked?
I've been attacked several times since I lived here. Yeah. And by the way, this is a Hispanic neighborhood. So I know what it's like to live in a Hispanic neighborhood. As a matter of fact, next door, the police had to come because they had a meth lab, and my life would have been taken had the police not come. So yes, Rick, I think things will be better when we have fewer illegal aliens in the city of
This
LA.
isn't exactly
But
a
beyond that, on a
thing.
related
We
issue-
had a meth lab on our street in white ass Studio City. You can have a meth lab.
Well, we'll have less of it when they close the border and they deport some of these people. And also, the one thing you can't seem to accept is that when illegal aliens move into a state by, say, the millions, that state gets a higher number of congressional seats and electoral college votes because all residents of a state are counted. So, for example, the reason California has such a high number of electoral college votes is because it has the highest number of illegal aliens in the country. You can look that up on Google AI if you want.
I'm doing it.
Okay. The highest number of illegal aliens and the highest number of homeless people and the highest poverty rate are all in California. And it's all related. And by the way, I would like to be able to vote for a candidate in California that is not a Democrat, but I can't because the illegal aliens are voting for the Democrats and they are sending more Democrats to Congress because of the way the census is taken. So, yes, I'll get better representation in Congress. California will have fewer electoral college votes, so it's more likely that a conservative will be elected. There will be less crime, and social services like schools and hospitals will be freer. Oh, and by the way, Rick, the reason my rent is so goddamn high is because illegal aliens are taking up all the low rent areas in the state.
Okay, so here's what Google
no,
AI
no,
says.
I'm
No,
not
wait, no,
finished.
you said I could look it up. So let me tell you what it says. So Google AI says, according to Pew Research, they estimate that 1.8 million California residents are undocumented, which is 4.5%, down from 2.8 million 18 years ago, which was 7%. So it's somewhere, according to Pew, between 5 and 7%.
Okay, that constitutes 3 electoral college votes and 3 congressmen, because each congressman is about 500,000. So that's fine. That's almost the difference in the Congress right now. So because of your illegal aliens, you're almost in control of the Congress. So I don't like that shit.
Okay.
I know that's the way you guys roll, but I don't like it. I don't think it's fair. And my other point is that when you bring in millions of poor people, they will take all of the poor apartments and buildings in the state, and then the rents will skyrocket for dumb fuck Americans. See, that's why the rent is so high in New York and in California. And that's why Mom Donnie has to give everyone rent control.
I would say another reason is that California and New York have a shit ton of rich ass, very successful people who can afford to pay exorbitant rents, which also drive, it's not just poor people, rich people drive rents up, right?
No. This is what happens. Okay, listen to me.
Really, wait, I feel
Wait. Let me just make my last point because it's a perfect refutation. The most elaborate studies ever done say that the reason rents are high is because people are crowding in. Stop looking at the thing. I'm talking to you.
No, you can talk and I can type.
What happens is people are desperate to avoid the poor crime-ridden areas, and they're bidding for the small, safe areas. So they're moving into the rich and safe areas to get away from the crime and the poverty that the Democrats have brought. And that's what raises the rent.
Okay, so AI says it's both. It's both the wealthy and lack of affordable options for the poor. And well, hold on. 1/3 of the houses bought in the last few years and apartments and condos, 1/3 of the residential properties have been bought by investors. For instance, Sean Hannity, who makes $35 million a year talking to you guys over on Fox, he owns 1,000 rental properties. So you get these consortiums and also private landlords buying up housing stock and then renting them to people at high prices. So it's the rich and the poor. It's not just poor people.
Okay.
All right, so
Cassidy,
we probably have to wrap up. This episode has been more than an hour, and it's past your bedtime because you've got class tomorrow. So, Mark, what do you got for us?
No, that was it. I had those questions, and y'all pretty much answered them, and all along those lines. So it's about time for us to wrap up and everything like that.
We're going to do some music here.
Yeah, it's time for some music to come up here. While we're waiting for the music, While we're waiting for the music, I will say that I do love free bus rides because we have free bus rides in Durham, North Carolina, and they will be going until July of next year, and then they'll vote for it again. So we've had it ever since the pandemic. Free bus rides are cool.
Well, I'm gonna do something, a little riff song. I'm gonna do my lyrics in Spanish, and then Cassidy here's gonna riff in English. So,
Cool.
tanto tiempo disfrutamos de este amor, nuestras almas se acercaron tanto así que no guardo tu sabor, pero tú llevas también sabor a mí. Oh, in that my life wrapped up. Oh, in the ways that I get stuck in my mind. Tanto tiempo disfrutamos de este amor, nuestras almas se secaron, que yo guardo, pero tú llevas también and I just want us to see all that we can dream of, for dreaming of believe and to believe. Yo pretendo ser tu dueño y no soy nada, yo tengo toda de mi vida, todo lo bueno. Soy tan pobre que otra cosa puedo dar. So won't you take my hand and we will create a plan to save the world. That's what I'm really just trying to do, is I just want to find love in all the places, in all the spaces in between, oh, out on these LA streets. Yeah, baby! Yeah, that is incredible. And that's not an easy song. That's not what I mean. It's got a lot of chord changes. She's got a great ear. She's a trained artist. And I thank you so much for jamming with me. And thank you so much for y'all for your attention. Mark, you want to close with anything, Mark?
Well, I think that's about ready to wrap it up and everything like that. I know a lot of people will be paying attention over the weekend to sports. My fantasy team is doing horrible, so I realized that I lost another game, and I think I'll be 4-7. So maybe I'll win the Sucker Bowl or something like that, and maybe my Marquette team can do well as also, since they lost a game to Maryland. So.
Who's your quarterback?
I got Goff from Detroit.
Okay, right on. Okay.
Yeah, I have a good quarterback and got a good defense. I just started off bad. I think I was 1-6 and then went on a 3-game winning streak. But I think that winning streak is going to end today unless my wide receiver goes off on the Monday night game.
So we got to give kudos, Mark, to the founder of this show, the smartest man in the world, literally the smartest man in the world, Rick Rosner, and Lance Richland, one of the greatest artists in the world as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
God, we're just saying.
And the greatest
Not
director in the
all
world.
doing-
Greatest director in the world. Greatest model, singer, anarchist in the world.
Buy Alcoa aluminum and pancakes. Then see y'all next week.
Bye.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Bam!